Hi,
How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Doing great.
Good. I'm so excited to talk to you.
I'm excited
Oh,
to be here with you.
yes. Oh my God. And it's so funny that we met at Central. Did you go to Central?
I did go to Central, but the people that were next to us, your tent. So a lot of us get together and we tailgate there each year. A whole
So,
bunch of
Mr.
friends get together.
What is his name? Oh my God. Uh, I can't.
Gorham.
Huh?
You talking about Gorham?
No. No, his first name.
Jasper.
Jasper, yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
We absolutely adore him because the very first year that we started tailgating.
Uh-huh.
I think my brother asked him for something. I can't remember what it was, and then he helped him out, and then yeah, so they become friends, and then so one year we came. I don't know what happened. There were some other people with him. It wasn't his wife. It was somebody else, not female, but some other guys. I know what it was. It was Auntie and Central Gang.
Yes.
That's what it was. We had such a good time, and
Yes.
the guys were over there flirting with me, and Jasper said no,
Uh-huh.
absolutely not. Leave her alone. I said you sound just like my brother. It was so funny.
Hey, Jasper definitely watches out for everyone.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, you got, and so now we're like family. We're
I
like
know,
family.
right?
And I didn't realize you were right there next door I didn't realize that's where you came
Yeah,
from. I did not realize that. I don't know. I guess
yes.
I thought you walked by or something. So I don't know. There was a lot going on.
Really was. It really
Yeah,
was.
yeah, there was
But
a
I
lot.
think this one, I said that this one has, I think, been the best one for me since because we were originally over in the pit, and then they closed the pit, and that's how we
I
got
don't
on
know what that is.
It's right across the street. You have the bookstore
Oh,
there,
wait, the
and
book still
that
got
area.
parking lot.
Yeah, but this year they opened the pit back up.
Ah,
But they closed it down because you used to have a lot of young folks. They would come through on their motorcycles and stuff, and would come up in the pit while everybody was tailgating.
ah.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, yeah. So I don't recall being over there. So we've been coming, I think about 5 years, maybe
Hmm.
six,
Hmm.
if you exclude COVID.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so
Hmm.
we've been coming for a while now. And there were years when I did not come to homecoming because we were either in another state. My husband was military, so we were,
Uh-huh.
somewhere.
Uh-huh.
And
So,
uh, and
which
so I
branch of
just,
the military?
huh?
Which branch military?
Navy.
Okay, okay. I have two
Hmm.
brothers. They're Marines.
Okay, okay. My son
Mhm.
went to the Marines, my younger son, yeah. So
Excellent.
yeah, but it was really, really nice to meet you. And I did a little research and with the information you shared with me. And
Uh-huh.
so I was very excited to talk to you. Now, do you live in Durham or where do you live in North Carolina? If you don't have to say that, I forgot. So
Okay.
don't say that. But
Uh-huh.
anyway, what year were you at Central?
I was in Central back in 93.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay, you're a baby.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
You're a baby. Okay. That's okay though. That's
Mhm.
okay. Yep.
But
I
yeah,
was there in the 70s,
okay,
the late
okay.
70s. Yeah. So yeah, that's a lot of years in between. But anyway, yeah. And I don't know when Jasper was there because I don't think I ever asked him that question. Did he and his
Okay.
wife both go to Central?
Now I know that Jasper went to Central. I'm not sure whether or not his wife Pam went or not.
Okay, yeah, I don't know
Mhm.
that either. I don't know that either.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
can't remember if they told us the first year or not, but like I
Mhm.
said, we've been friends, and I was so disappointed and worried about him when he was in the accident or got
Mhm.
sick, and I was
Mhm.
like, oh
Mhm.
my God. So we were definitely praying for him as well. But I'm
Yeah.
excited about talking to you today. And I want to just kind of go into my introduction like I'm supposed to, instead of, doing all the other talk, because like I said,
that's why I got on early, just in case before.
Right. Yeah. And I just finished another interview. I try to do maybe 2 or 3 each Saturday. My goal this year is to have 52 episodes.
Okay.
Last year I did 30. That was my first year, and I could see how I can, do more than that. But I've been really enjoying this work, and my focus is only on grandmas, not grandpas, just grandmas, right? So
yes, and look, we know grandpas are a great and assistant as grandmothers, but grandmothers are it.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I started doing this work because people would say to me, well, you don't look like a grandma. You don't act like a grandma. And I'm like, what does a grandma look like and act like? Because today's grandmas are different,
They
right?
are.
They're totally different from like what my grandma, my great grandma, what they were like. They were pretty close to home, took care of the kids, everybody dropped the kids off there, and that's what they did. And they didn't really have a life of their own, so to speak.
Exactly.
But today's grandmas are different. We got
totally different.
Totally different. We're doing it. We are really doing it. So that started this, and I like to call it. I like to say that we are living the fab lifestyle, because this show is really about. It's for grandmas. It's about grandmas, and it's by grandmas.
Yes.
And I invite guests that are either grandmas or they have some kind of dealing with grandmas in some way. So sometimes we're educating. And maybe I bring in an expert to talk about, well, grandmas can do this. We do financial literacy. We talk about wellness. We talk about physical health, all those kinds of things, right? And then sometimes I just want to hear somebody's story, because many times that can inspire someone else it can inspire someone to change their lives, or see that their life should be changed or whatever. So, that's really what it's all about. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm very excited about it, and I look forward to hearing all about and sharing with my listeners all about Niecy Daniel. So tell us, who is this beautiful woman with this gorgeous smile? And I love that you smile. You've been smiling the whole time.
Yes, that's what people say a lot about me. I will say one thing. Where I grew up, very, very large family. I have 13 brothers and sisters, and I am in the middle from the top. And so, yes. And we dispersed out. I was born up north, Connecticut.
Okay.
And some of us were born down south. And so our family moved back and forth. And so it was just really, really nice growing up in a very, very large family with lots of love. And so that was very exciting. And I'm also the grandmother to 3 wonderful grandchildren. Travis,
what their ages?
And Travis, my oldest, is 20.
Okay.
He's in college. And then my middle girl, and I call her Sugar Mama.
Right.
and she will always be Sugar Mama to me, but yeah, that's my baby. But her name is Paris, but I call her Sugar Mama, and she's 16.
Okay.
And then as I call him, Mama's baby, John Michael is 1 year old. He turned last month.
See, I'm a lover of toddlers. I absolutely adore toddlers. Okay. Yes, I love them. They're so funny. I've got a 2-year-old. You saw him probably at the homecoming. He's the best. Yeah.
Loved him.
Yes. Energy out of this world. I'm like, oh my God, little boy. I just want just one iota of the energy that you had.
But guess what? When he's around you, you have that energy, don't
Yes,
you?
I do, don't I? Yes,
Yes, yes.
yes, I do.
But as soon as they leave, we are exhausted.
Yes, exactly right. You don't have a choice but to, as they say, he's like a hype man. You don't have a choice but to get hype. Really.
Yes, yes, because your baby really kept us entertained.
I bet. Yeah.
Yes,
He
yes.
was running, and see, he lives in DC. He's not
Okay.
used to all that space either. That's the other.
Oh,
So running on the field, flipping, doing. I think he was breakdancing. I don't know what he was doing some of the time. He was so
so
funny.
that explains why he loved it. Because I know growing up north, there is very little outside space.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. And so it's like he was in heaven, honey. Okay.
Trust me, I know because he visited us so
Oh,
much.
did
Yes, we didn't know who baby he was, but we figured we'd just take him home with us.
right, right, right. That's the same thing I would do. I'm like, who you can go home. Don't even worry about it. Right.
But that's the way it was. Growing up, it didn't matter in the
Hmm.
South now whose baby you was the
That's right.
neighborhood child. So
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's unfortunately it's not like that anymore like it was. I mean, with some people, yes, because
yeah,
those values are still in us, but with a lot of
exactly.
people, it is not. And so that's the scary part for children. Yeah. But
Yeah,
now I'm excited about your book. Tell us about that and your platform and all the work that you're doing.
okay. Well, the book it's entitled "Uncaged, Bruised but Not Broken: 6 Essential Strategies for Rising Above Life Challenges." And we'll talk a little bit about the title first, because
Hmm.
folks is like, how in the world you come up with that title? But when I talk about being uncaged, as you know, being in the field, we're talking about being released or set free from something.
Yes, honey. I love that. Yes.
And so and when in bruise, I'm talking about emotional bruising, and
Hmm.
that's that hurt that we have from bad experiences,
Mm-hmm.
that makes it difficult for us. And
Mm-hmm.
so to get through, day to day, um, cause us to have, low mood swings and things like that. And so many people experience that. And so what I do in Uncaged is to teach you strategies for moving past that. And folks say, well, what are you being uncaged for? Well, it depends on who you are. You know,
Hello, and your own experiences, right?
exactly. You know,
Wow.
for some people, it could be depression. I
Mm,
tell folks that, it could be being uncaged from having served time in prison.
mm,
It could also deal with military services. So
mm,
many
mm.
veterans suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes, yes, honey.
And
It could be being the 2.0 version of yourself, right?
exactly,
Because when I read the title, I said, you know what? I like this because it has so many different, like different perspectives. In other words,
exactly.
I could be uncaged because as a mom, I was always there with my children and had to be there. My daughter had asthma growing up, so we couldn't
Mhm.
let her stay with people, like other people babysit because we didn't know if they would know what to do. Not
Exactly.
even grandparents, because we didn't know if they would know what to do. And then in the South, people would say, "Oh, well, you don't need that. You just need a so and so." Regardless of what your medical history was.
Exactly.
So
Look,
it could
that
be
old folk remedy.
exactly. So it could be uncaged from just having to hold on so tight to make sure that your child was okay. It
Mhm,
could be uncaged because your husband abused you. It
mhm.
could be, or your wife. It could be uncaged because you were so wound up because you were living a life that everybody else wanted you to live and you never was your authentic self.
Say it. Say it.
So I love that title.
And it just too, and and going on that same realm, just uncaged because of your mindset. You know,
Oh, girl, preach. Yes, yes,
yes.
yes, yes, yes. And that's exactly right. And many times that's exactly what it is. We
Mhm.
get so caught up in, oh, I can't do this because, oh, I've
Mhm.
never done that before, so I'm afraid. Yes.
Yes. But you know, my thing of it is do it afraid, because what you
Mm,
do is you learn from failure. You learn your
mm,
best lessons in failure,
yes. Mm,
your
mm,
best lessons. So, you know, when you go to perfect that thing, you know what works and what doesn't work.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
so,
I've been doing my grandma business for, I started officially started during COVID.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
I have learned so many things. I've learned so many things about business. I've learned a lot of things about myself.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I've learned how some people operate. I've
Yeah,
learned how to navigate around people to do what I need to do. I've learned that, just learned so many lessons. I've had a lot of failures in the middle of all this, but I have
mm-hmm.
had lots of successes too. And so,
Exactly.
yeah, it's been a beautiful journey. It really
Mm-hmm,
has
mm-hmm,
been a
mm-hmm.
beautiful journey. So, and I've met some phenomenal women like yourself
Uh-huh,
who
uh-huh,
just blow me away
uh-huh, uh-huh.
because it's like, wow, they counted us out as grandmas, but guess what? They better ask somebody because we are
Look,
not
they
down
better
for
act.
the
They
count.
better act. They better act. And you know, and that's, you know, one of the things in writing this book too, and going through these strategies, what I specifically did, you know, for the listeners, and you know, and they purchase the book and read, is in order to tell someone, you know, how to move past them, you have to have experienced something. So I give the readers a glimpse of just episodes of
Mm,
domestic violence that I
mm,
experienced when I was married, you know, and to read some of these, you know, people are like, I can't believe that
mm,
you shared this, because, you know, it's very personal. I even
mhm,
shared an incident that involved my daughter as well. But the thing about it is that when I'm explaining to you first, and talking about the first strategy is that,
yeah, let's get into those strategies. I want to hear.
I,
Yeah.
I, yeah, we're going to talk. The very first strategy is that you have to identify the source of your
Mm,
trauma. And
mm,
see, for me, that was the issue. That was because when you don't identify that, in this particular instance, you know, my husband was a provider, but he was also an abuser. And
mm,
because I could not see him for that, because
mm.
when you're involved in relationships, you see people for what and whom you want them to be.
Yes, honey.
and
Mm,
and
mm,
because of that, and you know, and I tell you, as a strategy, you have to identify the source of your trauma, and you have to put a name on it.
mm.
You have to put a name on it. So whether it's a person or a situation, you can't move forward until you identify it. You know, some people, you know, he and ha, as the old folks would say. But you
Yes.
really got to identify what's going on. And then once you identify, and I call that the thorn in your side.
Uh, uh,
And y'all remember that, you know, when folks
yes.
say that thorn is your side. And what is a thorn in your side? It's anything that causes you trouble,
Mm,
blocks you.
mm,
So whether it's an individual or a particular situation, I said identify your thorn.
mm.
And
That's
how do,
powerful.
and how do you do that? I said, well, first of all, you have to unmask the thorn's behavior and characteristics. So if
Mm,
it's a person, how is this person behaving towards you? How are they behaving towards others? And you know, and it can't be, which happens a lot in domestic violence situations, where you are so accustomed to that type of behavior, it
mm,
becomes the norm
mm.
when it really isn't the norm. But
It's not.
but for you,
Mm-hmm.
it comes off as normal behavior. And
So
so,
you just accept it, even though, deep down, that it's not right. You should not be treated this way, but you accept it.
and I would say in my own, of course I knew because
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in my home and my mom and dad had one fight that I knew of my entire life. One.
Mm-hmm.
So, I grew up grandparents, aunts and uncles and stuff. I never saw my grandparents argue, not even once, not even raise their voice at each
Mm-hmm.
other once. And I never had aunts and uncles that argued, fought, got drunk and all of that kind of stuff. And I will tell you from my dad's side of the family, it was 21 of them. On
Mm-hmm.
my mom's side, it was 6 of them. So, I have a very large family to be going
Right.
to events and people not, getting drunk, fighting, and all of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, and I can say, you have to speak for myself. For me, I knew that the behavior was wrong because I hadn't been raised that way. But I
Mm-hmm.
also, was afraid, but not only afraid, but just embarrassed to say to my family, to say to my
Right.
friends that
Mm-hmm.
I'm being treated this way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, a lot of times victims, whether it's women or men,
Mm-hmm.
they stay in that particular situation because, for me, I can say that it was like I felt like people wonder, well, what's wrong with you?
Mm-hmm.
Since
That you
he's
tolerate.
treating you this way, yes,
Yes.
as
Yes. Yes.
opposed to placing the blame where it should have been, which was on him. And so
Mm.
that will keep you confined in a bad situation.
Mm.
Mm,
Wow. But yeah, that is so true. That is
mm.
so true.
But
Mm.
then when you're dealing with, so once you, identify the source of your trauma, because it also could be a job situation. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
It
Mm-hmm.
could be a job separation. What's happening at the job. We're just not talking about people. But I said, but then for a lot of people, you're not experiencing just one trauma. You may be experiencing multiple traumas. And so that's what you have to do is you have to evaluate your situation. Is it one trauma or two traumas? And if it is, then you have to figure out which trauma episode that you have to deal with first, because it's important to establish a sense of balance. Because if you can get that equilibrium back, then you can feel like you have some type of control.
Mm-hmm.
And so you cannot move forward unless you establish that equilibrium. So, for instance, say I'm dealing with domestic violence. I got a unruly child, and my job is just a job from hell. Well,
Mm-hmm.
which one of those at the
Right.
tree do I need to handle first so
Right.
I can center myself? So
Mm-hmm.
I can, focus, because it's really the one that's causing you the most stress. You need to center that one first so you can control, what you can and deal with the others. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and people don't realize they just think, oh, I got all of this, I got all of that. But you really need to kind of figure it out, because some of it is it's not trauma. It's just that you got too much going on, and I call that
Right.
noise. So you need to get rid of the noise
Ooh.
so you
Ooh.
can actually deal with
Ooh.
the trauma.
I was just talking to someone last night who said that very same thing.
Uh-huh.
So we are in this group together,
Yes.
and it's a financial group, right?
Right.
In investing. And
Mm-hmm.
so he said, well, Marsha, I just had to unplug, is what he said. And I said, well, what do you mean? I mean, I know what the word unplug implies, but I wanted to hear what he meant. And he said, well, what I meant was I had just so much going on. And he said it was like noise. He said this was happening, this was happening, this was happening, and he named off like 60. And I said, oh my God. He said,
Yeah.
so for about a month and a half, I had to unplug,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because if I didn't, I don't know what I would have done. He said, and my spouse was acting really mean and real crazy. And I don't know. And he said, and I don't know what happened. And the job, so all of those things you were talking about, the job,
Exactly.
spouse, and all of this was going on at the same time. And he said, I just had to unplug. And I said, well, do you feel better now? And he said, well, I'm getting back. He said, I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm getting back there. And I said, well, good. And I said, wow, yeah. I said, we were trying to figure out, well, what happened? Like you just fell off the face of the earth or something. He said, but I needed to do that for me. He said, I unplugged from social media as well. I'm like, wow.
But and so, but we looked at unmasking. You're throwing their behaviors and stuff, but also in getting through this first phase, you also have to look at and identify your own symptoms. What are you experiencing? I mean, are you dealing with depression, anxiety? You know, are you not eating? You see, are you
overeating? Because some people do that.
Overeating. But that, not only that, you have are you dealing with stomach problems? Are you not able to sleep? Because I knew it, at times if I'm stressed and a lot of stuff, the first thing that I cannot do is sleep. Because it's almost that thing is, if you sleep, you're not going to be able to handle your problems. But the point of it is, if you're not getting sleep, if you're not eating right, if you're not exercising, everything is going to go downhill, because
you're exaggerating.
your mind is going to excavate everything that's going on. So you have got to eat, you've got to sleep, and you've got to exercise.
Yeah. Amazing. And so I saw in your bio that you've been doing this, talking to people around the world, actually, about these issues and how they can overcome and I guess become more resilient or become more uncaged and be more of whoever they are, whoever they're meant to be.
Exactly. And it's
so talk about some of those experiences.
But what people have to realize is that what I tell them, we experience different things, and some of them may be very bad, but guess what? That is part of your individual journey. Not saying that someone should abuse you or misuse you, but that's part of the path as to where you're going. The question is what are you going to do with those experiences? Or are you going to learn from them and use those experiences to not only empower yourself, but to empower others as well? I say, like I talk in the book, in everything there is a silver lining. There is a silver lining. You just have to look for it.
Yes. Yeah, that is true. And we don't always think of something traumatic as having a silver lining. We think that there's nothing good about this.
Exactly.
Right? But yeah. So looking at it from that perspective, and I'm sure that could change your whole thing about it, your whole perspective, the way you see it, and even how you react to it.
And that is because that's what I talk about too in the book, is about mindset. Because it's how you in the second chapter, we talk about the second strategy, which is change your environment. And sometimes, whether you may have to relocate, whether it's relocating from your home to someone else, somewhere else to live, or if you're on a job, changing jobs.
Yeah.
But in a lot of instances, you can't relocate from home, nor can you quit your job. So I said, well, then that's what it is. You got to change your mindset. You got to change how you view what's happening to you. And once you do that, then you can make way in the circumstances that you're in right then until you can move to where you need to be.
Yep. That reminds me of a situation I had at work. I started a new job, and the people there, sometimes I think that people misinterpret who you are
Mhm.
by the way you present yourself, right?
Yes.
So I present myself in a way that sometimes people misinterpret, I guess.
Hmm.
And because of that, I got this animosity from these people from the very beginning. And I'm like, okay, so what is anyway, so some people might say, oh, they felt threatened, whatever. Maybe they did,
They
maybe they
did.
didn't. I don't know.
Fabulous, black woman, and
Right,
brilliant. And
right,
brilliant. Of course, you're a
right.
threat.
Right. And so, but people need to get over that, because even though that may be how you see me,
Mhm.
that may not be what I am really, or the way that I want to portray myself. I don't know. But what I'm saying is that happened to me, and as a result of that, all these people treated me horribly. And so I was like, no, wait a minute. I came from a place where people liked me because I wanted to do something different, and now these folks are acting as if I got two heads, or so, I don't know. It was just really weird. And so I said, okay, after about maybe 3 or 6 months. And so everything I did, nothing was good enough. Nothing
Mhm.
was, and I said, okay, no problem. I am a college professor, right? And if
Uh-huh.
nothing else failed, all other things fail, right? Like, oh, I can be a coordinator, I can be a dean, I can be this. If you don't let me do or don't want me to do those things, I still have my students.
Exactly.
So I can deal with my students. So I said, okay, no problem. Here's what I'm going to do in that situation. I can either take that and be
Mhm.
upset about it, or I can just say, whatever, people, and focus on my students. And that's what I did. So after about a year, they were like, the students love you. What are you doing to this? Huh? So now you got an issue with that, right? I mean, come on. Come on, people.
Uh-huh.
No matter what. And it was all made up in their minds.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I was trying to be, I guess, the president of the college, and I was never interested in that at all. And I'm like, wow, this is interesting how people create these stories in their own mind.
Exactly. About you.
Cause you anxiety. But like you said, I just decided, okay, I'm not going to deal with that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. I'm going to
Uh-huh.
focus on the students, do my office hours, and I'm going to be happy. And I'll be
Yeah.
able to spend time with my grandkids, spend time with my kids, and that's it. I'm not going to worry about them. And that's what I did. And I
Uh-huh.
detached myself from them
Uh-huh.
and did my job and kept moving. And
Exactly.
it was better for me in the long run.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And so I always say everything works together for my good. I
Exactly.
believe in that.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
that is my mindset about no matter what happens, I believe that. And that was an example of
Exactly.
just changing my mindset, not even worrying about it. Could you
And that's what people,
well?
they have to do. And that, and that's what I said, with this book here, it's a more or less a movement. And then folks
Mm,
said a movement. I said yes. I said because I'm wanting to help people transform their lives.
yes,
I said
yes.
so. That's what it has to, and particularly since COVID. I said if
Mm-hmm,
you just look at the number of people that are hurting,
mm,
uh, because when COVID and because of the isolation and job loss and all other things that were in deaths, the number
mm-hmm,
amount of deaths
mm-hmm,
that associated, and also just the effects on people health and because of COVID. I said you have to get. I said so it's about you know transformation, transforming people's lives, and I'm like if you follow these strategies, and I'm saying and I told you for folks who are reading the book and that to read each chapter 3 times,
mm,
and you're reading it one time solely for the purpose of understanding the concepts.
mm,
That's all you need to be focused on. And
mm-hmm,
and secondly, for learning the strategies
mm,
within that chapter. And
mm-hmm,
then lastly, applying it to your situation, your present situation.
mm, mm.
And so their end of the chapter, wrap up questions and stuff that you have to work along on the way to keep doing this, because I want you to keep a journal, and in the beginning it tells you, keep a journal so you can see your improvements, and if you didn't make it that week, it's okay.
Yes.
You got next week.
Yes.
You just applying it, but the whole purpose of it is that when you're done with the book, period. And I said, you refer back to the book as often if you need it. For some people, it may be monthly, it may be bi-monthly, however you need to do it. But what I'm trying to teach you is to learn yourself.
Yes. Who you are.
Who you are.
Yes.
And so and when you become aware of who you are, then no one can label you according to who they think you are.
Ooh. Yes, honey. I love it. I love it. And it's about your own emotional wellness.
Exactly. Exactly. And
that is very powerful.
But the very last thing, and I'm just hopping to the last strategy, rediscover self and welcome the new you. What people don't understand is that when you're experiencing trauma, and we're going back, it's that part of the brain, the amygdala. Most folks don't know what it is, but it stores these traumatic events there. And what happens as you're going through, the brain is being changed because of the trauma that you experienced. So even if you're in therapy and they try, if you go to someone, they tell me, well, we're going to try to get you back, go to another therapist, because trauma forever changes you. You're never going to be the same person. What you need to become accustomed of and settle with is the person that you now become because of the trauma that you experienced.
The new you, boo.
The new you. As I say, welcome the new you.
Yes.
And I tell them some of the things, because it's when you're picking up hobbies and stuff. I know what I picked up was modeling. And I went, and it was so funny because I accidentally stumbled into it, trying to set my grandbaby up for modeling. And somehow they intertwined me up in there. And I said intertwine, but it was a wonderful event because it was during that period of time too. But I ended up competing in an international modeling competition in Las Vegas. I did, and I was assigned by an agency out of New York. So
yeah.
But the thing is that I told them, I said, well, I'll only go and compete in this competition if I can raise money for domestic violence. I said that's the only way I go. And so and that's what I did, people, and so we raised that money. And so I went over there, had a fabulous time there, and got back on, as I said, this part of the world, and was had a contract and love it. And I still do model sometimes. Folks come to me, are you ready to walk yet? I'm like, I'm like, yeah. So I'm looking at some more.
Oh, that's fabulous. When you sent the picture with the red gown on, I'm like, she looks like a model. That's what I said. And I immediately put your name down because here's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
A calendar. Nothing but grandmas.
Okay.
And I added your name to that. And I have a file of all the people that I've met so far that I want to be on the calendar. And your name is there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I was like, wow. And that red dress, I'm like, wow, she looks like a model. And I said, ooh, I'm putting her name on my list of models, right?
Yeah.
And now I've got some fashion designers and I've got a file, right? I got some fashion designers. I'm looking for the right photographer.
Okay.
And I found this guy in Colombia I don't know if he would travel though to do all of it because people are going to be all over. But yes, oh my God, that's interesting. That's very interesting. I didn't realize that was a modeling that you were modeling in that photo, but that's exactly what it looked like.
Yeah.
Yes, I was like, wow, she'd be perfect for the calendar. Yes,
And they actually snapped that picture while I was walking. I was actually walking.
in the fashion show.
No, I was outside. They had me walk, but they was snapping pictures as I was walking. There, it's like that is an excellent shot.
Ah, yes, it really was. It really, really is. And I was like, wow, that's beautiful. Yes. So,
Thank
so it goes to show you too,
you.
no matter what you experience in life, no matter what happens, I always say everything works together for the good. Everything works together for your good. And so, you would think that based on some of your experience, you may not, people may not think, well, how is she a model? And yesterday she was just this and then domestic violence and all that, but you just never know, and you
And
never
never
know where people will lead you, right?
exactly. And and that's why my company, Centurion ASM LLC, we do we provide behavioral health services. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that's what we do.
You do that for kids too, as well as adults.
I do. I'm actually in North Carolina. I'm on their juvenile service provider list for the state.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay. Yeah,
yeah.
because I know in here in Virginia, where I was in DC
Mhm.
before moving back to Virginia, and
Uh-huh.
I worked with a group there, and they were a behavioral health agency, is what they call themselves,
Yes.
and they focused on kids. And
Uh-huh.
I did some training for them for they would go into classrooms and
Uh-huh.
work with children with challenging behaviors. And I did some training for the teachers
Uh-huh.
because my field is teacher education. And
Yeah.
so, yeah. And so, but I've never done a lot with adults as far as behavior is concerned, but mainly
Mhm.
with kids. Yeah. But I like the fact that in here in you were saying that you've been speaking to different groups, and I love the fact that you're working with higher ed as well,
Yes.
because there's so many issues with adolescents and teens and young adults these days, and
Yes.
learning how to manage their behavior. And
Mhm.
one of the things that we say in early childhood is if we teach them self-regulation early in those early years,
Exactly.
they won't have to deal with that, or they'll know how to behave themselves and
Exactly.
know what their triggers are and avoid
Mhm.
those things so they don't get themselves in trouble.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I actually have a tweens program, but we haven't started back since COVID, and that's
Mm-hmm.
working with kids that are between the ages of 10 and 13.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and helping them to deal with stress, anger, bullying. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's just so much too for these kids. I feel really bad for them because I mean, when we were growing up, when I was growing up, there were bullies, of course, because I
Mhm.
remember the bully in the community that would run
Yeah,
home from wherever, from the store, whatever. I remember.
exactly.
And so they were always bullies.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, but the bullies these days are seem like they're a little bit more violent or something. It
They're a
really,
little,
really,
they're a little bit more violent, but I also think that kids are not like what we were when growing up. And when I say that, I'm talking about resilience.
mm,
Because here, a lot of kids are being intimidated because of what somebody said on Facebook.
right. I know,
And
right?
and you have these suicides and things. But when we were coming along, we were being taught so many different things as far as confident building and all of
Mm-hmm,
that stuff. It was being put into you each and every day.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
so it wasn't like, if your father wasn't in the home, where you had the love of a male because it was your uncle, you know
mm-hmm,
a grandfather, a neighbor's father, somebody. It
mm-hmm,
wasn't that there was an absence of a male figure, particularly in young ladies' lives, because
mm-hmm,
your neighbor stepped in
mm-hmm,
and filled in that gap.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, so yeah, things are totally different these days, I think, than in the past, and that is scary, for the kids that are being raised these days. And I try to stay like even the other night, my son was here, and his daughter is 11, Tatiana, and
Uh-huh.
Tati said, and so we were talking about, I don't know how we got on this subject. We were talking about bullies.
Yes.
And I said, well, Tati, is anybody bullying you? She said, no, Grandma. She says, because she said it like, I wish somebody would, that sort of expression, right? And she said, no, and I don't worry about that. And I said, okay, good. And
Okay.
so my son said, well, I remember being bullied when I was a little. I said, really, Hughes? You never told me that. He
Uh-huh.
said, yeah. He said, but I handled it myself. And I said, well, what does that mean? Because I'm now trying to figure out, did he do something to the kid or something? He said, well, no. He said, I just decided, he said, because I was new at the school.
Mhm.
Being
Mhm.
in the military, you travel a lot
Yes.
and you're at different schools. He said, I was new at the school. He said, but I just kind of figured a way to kind of integrate myself. I said, oh, okay, okay. He said,
Mhm.
but at first, some of the guys were kind of bully. He said, because I remember not going to PE because I didn't want to be bullied. And I'm like, now, wait a minute.
Mhm.
'Cause when I'm thinking about not going to PE, I'm thinking what was happening in the gym, or
Mhm.
because how boys
Yeah.
can be so rough with each other. And so he said, no, it wasn't anything like that. And I said, okay, because
Mhm.
like, okay, we're gonna have to go back and talk to these people at the school and say, okay, now wait a minute. But because the thing is, you have
Yeah.
to take care of your children.
Mhm.
And I was the kind of parent that I was at the school, always at the school, always at PTA meetings, part of PTA. I was engaged,
Mhm.
fully engaged when my children were in school because that was important to me. And as an
Mhm.
educator, that was important to me. And I know those parents that are engaged, their children get a better deal than those that are not.
And that is so true because I know when my kids were in school, I was like you when we went to school, I immediately wanted to know who the teachers were because
Yes.
I was going to tell the principal whether or not my kids were going to be in the classroom or not. And they said, "You the only person that come to that first meeting, and we gonna know what classes your kids are going to be." I said, "Well, first of all, I said I love my children. I'm very invested in them." I said, "But
Mm-hmm.
not only that, I said." I run a tight ship. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't want some them to be in a class where one, the teacher needs to, to be compassionate and loving, but also she needs to be able to structure her class.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
said, because they kids need structure. I said, when you grow up in life, you just don't get to do what you want to. And I said and I said, plus I need someone, who could educate my kids appropriately. And I never allowed anyone, if it was your first time teaching, you were not teaching my child. It was an absolute no. And
Mm-hmm.
so once I got, and it's all because of, like, first of all, if you 23 years old, you don't have no kids. You don't even have no life experiences. You just got out of college. What you gonna do for my babies? Absolutely nothing. And
Well,
so,
I was one of those teachers, so I get it. But
no,
anyway.
no, no. But when I listen to your story, you see what I'm saying? Because
Mm-hmm.
I came up where I had to take care of my siblings underneath me. So it
Yeah.
was no,
Yeah.
so there was a story
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and stuff. I mean, my baby sister at the time, I had her so much. Even if we went to the wreck that was like 5 miles away, I carried her on my side the whole
Mm-hmm.
time. I had her so much people thought she was my child.
Right. Right.
So when you're up and you're having to be responsible,
Mm-hmm.
first it
Mm-hmm.
was early on. I had to be responsible for my siblings that were underneath me.
Yeah, definitely. And that's how it was back then. We were, I was the oldest in my family. And so, of course, being the oldest, I had to make sure that they were taken care of because that's what they taught you. You
Hmm.
take care of your siblings. And everybody was boys. I was the girl,
Hmm.
everybody was boys. So then
Hmm.
that meant I had to fight boys sometimes because they were messing around. It was crazy. But
Yes.
again, I believe everything works together for my good. That means I'm not afraid of boys, right?
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
because I know, and all that. But again,
Yeah.
it worked out. I think it worked out well. But I was definitely the new teacher, and I did a program. I don't know if you know the cooperative extension.
Yes.
You heard of that program? So I
Mhm.
used to work with them when I out of college, and it was so funny. And I would go around to these different folks' homes because I was what they call a home visitor, right?
Yes.
But I would teach them parenting stuff, and I
Mhm.
wasn't a parent.
Mhm.
And so they would ask me, "Are you a parent?" And I say, "No, ma'am." And they say, "Well, how are you going to tell me to be a parent?" I said, "Well, I can tell you what the book says, the theories and all that stuff,
Mhm.
right? And then we can figure out how to put it in action."
Yeah.
And they bought that because
Uh-huh.
I was honest. No,
Yeah.
I'm not a parent, but I can tell you what the book says, and based on what you do, what the book says, we can kind of come to a happy medium, maybe work something
Uh-huh.
out. And they were like, "Oh, okay, well, I like that. That wasn't bad." Now, if I'd have said, "No, ma'am, but I know the book says so and so, and we're gonna do it straight by the book," but I didn't say that, right?
Exactly.
You can figure out how to do this based on what the book says and what you know, and we can come to an understanding. But that's
But
how I
but
got. I was
but
able to.
the thing about it though, look, but you had some parenting experience. You just
Oh yeah,
wasn't a
yeah,
birth parent, and so
right,
you
exactly.
you you had that experience
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
because you
That's
were taking
exactly
care of
right.
your young siblings.
Right. That's exactly right. I did have that experience because I had to take care of him. I had to clean up behind him. Oh, I used to fuss at my brother so bad. It was horrible. It was so funny. And even
Yeah.
today, I tell them, y'all get on my nerves because they never would do anything. But, that's how boys were back then, I guess. They
Yeah.
expected the girls and the women to take care of them. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a new day now. But anyway, but
Definitely up today.
yeah, I really enjoyed talking with you. Tell us how we can get your book. Where do we need to go to get your book? I want to do that.
Amazon. It's
Okay.
it's located on Amazon. Yes,
Okay.
it's
All right.
Uncaged, Bruised, but not broken. 6 essential strategies for rising above life challenges.
Thank you. And what about your social media sites?
I don't do a whole lot of social media.
Okay. 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 Well, do you have a YouTube anything?
We're working on some of that with the company Centurion, so I'll keep you updated on that.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Yeah, and I would love for us to stay in touch
Of
uh,
course.
for several reasons. Number one, because we're Central, we're Eagles, so we need to do it for that reason.
You know it.
Yes, honey. Yes. And then the other thing is because I've been thinking about a conference and I want somebody to talk about the emotional stuff. So
Okay.
I'm focusing on like these dimensions of wellness, like there's financial, there's emotional, there's spiritual, all of those. And I want somebody for each one of those categories,
Okay,
right?
excellent.
To talk on. And so I would really love to partner with you on that. So it's
Excellent.
gonna be, it's gonna probably take us a while to get all that together. And I
Yes,
haven't
yes,
found all the people yet, but I love what you're talking about. I love that whole idea, the title about being uncaged. I just absolutely adore that because you can see the visual. It's
yes,
very easy to understand what you mean by that.
yes, yes,
I think that's the perfect word,
yes.
uncaged, because it's just like, ooh, freedom finally at last. Thank God I'm
Exactly.
free, kind of thing. So
Exactly.
I want us to stay in touch for that reason as well. Okay. So
Oh,
thank you for being on the show.
thank
And
you
this
for
is,
having me.
oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And I didn't know that we had Jasper in common. So that makes it even more a treat, right? To know you because
Exactly.
yes, yes, yes. So I look forward to talking with you in the future. And
Yes.
again, thank you so much for being on the show. And then once we air this, I will send you a link to it, so you'll have it for your own for your YouTube or wherever you want to post it. Okay. All right.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. And we are signing off. This is Dr. Marsha, the 2.0 Grandma Show, and it has been my pleasure to have a conversation this afternoon with Miss Niecy Daniel, who is the author of Uncaged, Bruised but Not Broken, 6 essential strategies for rising above life's challenges. Thank you so much, Miss Niecy.
Thank you.
Bye bye.